Hello everybody, welcome back to Kanga TV, home of North Melbourne fans, and welcome to another preview here on the channel. Round 19, we take on the Sydney Swans over at the SCG on Saturday afternoon. I can't believe there's just 6 games left of the 2025 AFL season, the home and away season. Anyway, we will hopefully make the most of it and hopefully be celebrating a couple more wins before the end of the season. A couple of things to get through today. Off the top, we'll go through Tristan Xerri's suspension. I have a lot more to say about that than I initially thought I would have, so we'll dive into that and talk about his potential replacements. We'll also have a look at who may be making a return to the side ahead of the game against the Swans, and then we'll preview all the action before Saturday's big clash. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Okay, Tristan Xerri suspension. Let's start there for the preview today. Tristan Xerri was suspended for 3 matches for striking Melbourne's Tom Sparrow. He was knocked unconscious in the 4th quarter of the game, and the suspension has been upheld. We challenged the suspension at the tribunal last night and have come back unsuccessful once again. It's the 3rd time this season a North Melbourne player has been suspended for 3 games due to concussion, and it has definitely been costly for us in many ways. They're 3 of our best players that we've lost at different stages this season due to suspension. It ruins momentum, it ruins the cohesion of the team, although I'd argue at this point in the season our cohesion and consistency is coming a little bit unstuck. The actual outcome is not really something I'm bothered by. Like, I don't know about you guys, I probably never thought that he would actually get off. And I wasn't uncomfortable with the suspension when it was initially announced. I think as fans, particularly this season, we have been accustomed to punishing the outcome rather than the action itself. So Paul Curtis lays a perfect tackle and is suspended for 3 games because his opponent comes off second best and is concussed. So that wasn't really my issue at all. I think the issue I have with the suspension comes back to the inconsistency. And we know the MRO and the tribunal, there's just inconsistency left, right, and centre. But we've had an issue now in our own backyard on the other side where we have also been, I guess, punished, for a lack of better word. So LDU subbed out of the game against the Dogs. In the 1st quarter, he was concussed. An accidental elbow from Ed Richards left him concussed. He was subbed out of the game against the Dogs. He missed the game against the D's, and there's a chance he will miss this weekend against the Swans as well. No suspension for Ed Richards, nothing to see here. The same thing happened a couple of weeks earlier. George Wardlaw, who has a history of concussion and has a history of issues surrounding concussion and head knocks. He was knocked by Nick Watson, also probably an accident, but he missed a couple of games as well. So he didn't play against the Dogs due to that concussion protocol period of time, but he also missed the game against the D's over the weekend. So it's just a consistency thing, and I think North fans probably do feel hard done by a lot of the time, and opposition fans may look at it and say, well, stop complaining. The outcome suggests that he was always going to be suspended, but then why wasn't the outcome in the previous 2 instances where our players were left concussed and missing an action for a couple of games at a time not judged in the same manner? And I think that's what's really hard to read in these situations, and that's where the frustration really comes from. So like I said, I don't have actually an issue with him being suspended if we are consistent in suspending all instances where the player is left concussed unless they literally just fall over and hit their head on the floor and no one else was involved. I think that's what makes it very, very frustrating. The other element that makes it very, very frustrating is the club's approach, in my opinion, to the entire situation. So I like the fact that the club challenged. I think it's really good that we support our players in these circumstances, especially when we do feel like we can build a reasonable case to take to the tribunal. There was a lot of backlash when we chose not to challenge the Paul Curtis suspension of 3 matches. So I think the club probably felt like they had no other choice but to challenge it. Even if he was never a chance to get off, I would have hoped that we would have presented a stronger argument as to why he should get off or he should at least have a reduction in his suspension. But I felt like the case we presented to the MRO and the tribunal on Tuesday night was really weak. It was quite wholly, and a lot of what Tristan Xerri said and the lawyers said kind of contradicted itself as well. I just feel like there was not really a lot of effort actually put into the argument and the case that we were building. I felt like we were sending a message by challenging at the tribunal, but then not really following up by making a concerted effort to do our best to actually get him off. And then you come back to the initial question, well, then if we never thought he was getting off, then why did we bother challenging in the first place? And then it just comes back to that whole messaging around us being really strong and standing our ground and supporting our players. So it's a bit of a weird cycle, that one, and I'm a little bit disappointed. I feel like if we were going to challenge, we just needed to commit wholeheartedly and try and build a stronger argument. I feel like there was a little bit of a lack of, research done potentially, or preparation ahead of the meeting at the tribunal. We were the last ones as well at the tribunal on Tuesday night. So we had all day on Tuesday, and the club probably had from Sunday night, knowing there'd be a suspension and knowing there'd be an opportunity to challenge it. So I think that's probably where my frustration lies from our own backyard. And then there's obviously the other side of it, the frustration that lies from the tribunal. But the outcome nonetheless is still the same. We'll be without Tristan Xerri for the next 3 weeks. So who comes in to replace him? My gut says it's going to be Callum Coleman-Jones, and I think it'll be him along with somebody else actually taking the ruck battle as a duo rather than having a main ruckman and then having someone pinch hit for him. I don't think Taylor Goad is ready, and I understand the argument of we have nothing to lose by throwing him in there. However, we do have quite a few key players missing at the moment, and we do have a lot of youth and inexperience at all three lines, particularly in the tall stocks department. Will Dawson, Toby Pink, I know is older, but he is still inexperienced. We've also got Finbar up forward. So I would like us to potentially go the route of Callum Coleman-Jones. I think it's funny, about 10 weeks ago, I did a Q&A on the channel, and I said that I would probably just cut our losses at the end of the year and not persist with Callum Coleman-Jones. But since then, he has come back from injury, and he's actually shown a lot of promise in the VFL, and it suggests that maybe he'd be the one to stay over Bryn Teakle when we have to make those decisions around our list at the end of the year. So I think there's an opportunity here for us to give CCJ a run of games, show us what he's got. I also do think that the ruck is his stronger position over playing forward, so I'd like to give him that opportunity now that it does present itself. I don't know in terms of a medium to long term what the solution would be with him and where his future does lie, but I think right now there's an opportunity for him, and I'd be happy to give him that responsibility. I would like him to share the ruck load maybe with a Will Dawson. I know Shoddy has spent some time in the ruck as well. I just don't think that bringing Jack Darling into the equation to pinch hit in the ruck is a smart idea. Firstly, we may be without Nick Larkey for a second week, and we do need Jack Darling to play full forward. We've seen it once again. The proof is in the pudding. JD spent all of his time on the ground forward on Sunday afternoon against the D's. He kicked 3 goals. He was really, really influential in that first half in particular. So I think it's to both our benefit and his to leave him there and to find other options in the ruck. That personally is what I would be doing. I don't have an issue with us going down the route of Taylor Goad. I don't have an issue with us going down the route of Bryn Teakle either. I know he was replacing Callum Coleman-Jones over the weekend as an emergency as CCJ was unwell. So that's the other thing. Is he even actually going to be okay to potentially take his spot on Saturday afternoon? The other thing to keep in mind is that Brodie Grundy is in white hot form. He has hit some incredible form, as have the rest of the Swans team pretty much in the past sort of 8 to 10 weeks. So to be able to actually negate him is going to be a really difficult task to do anyway, let alone with someone with inexperience. So potentially, like I said, having a couple of rucks there to take him on might be the solution that the Roos end up going for on the weekend. On the topic of concussion, I mentioned it just before, we may be without LDU for another week. Apparently he still has a few boxes to tick, obviously subbed out early of that game against the Dogs, and potentially is still struggling with a little bit of delayed symptoms from that concussion. So it's a wait and see if he will take his place on Saturday afternoon. George Wardlaw is apparently all good to go, and I would expect him to come straight back into the side. Nick Larkey, like I mentioned, the other one, we don't know if we'll be with or without him on Saturday, but I do think the forward line has functioned well despite him not being there. Like I mentioned, Jack Darling, 3 goals on the weekend, Cam Zerha, a legacy quarter from him, and obviously Cooper Harvey stepping up and kicking 4 of his own on the weekend against the D's as well. So there are options. I think the forward line itself is probably my area of least concern at the moment. I would say the back line is still my area of concern, the main area of concern, and I do feel like we potentially lost this game against the D's at the selection table for tall defenders. I understand that we don't have any medium to small defenders available at the moment. Literally every single player in that position is injured at the moment, but we've kind of got to get creative and we've got to find ways to cover our losses as best that we can, because we did look a little bit slow coming out of defence. And sure, when the ball came in high, we were able to spoil or take the intercept mark, but then when the D's did lower their eyes, they were just hitting their players lace out on the chest, and we didn't really have too many answers for them. Jake Melksham kicking 5 on the weekend is a perfect example of that. So I think structurally we do need to make a few changes, and you guys know I'm a really big fan of continuity and consistency in the side, but when you've lost a 3rd consecutive game by more than 6 goals, I think it definitely does open the door for players to come in and get an opportunity they may not have had otherwise. Obviously we've got quite a few injuries mounting up at the moment as well, so there again is an opportunity potentially for some players to step up and just have a shot. Really, Cooper Harvey is a really good example of that. He's just made the most of the opportunity that he's received at senior level over the past fortnight, and I think a lot of us are probably expecting him to now keep his spot until the end of the season. I think give him the opportunity to show us what he's worth. He probably wouldn't have received a contract 12 months ago if Jaden Stevenson didn't retire, and I'm all for giving people an opportunity to mature and to develop, and we've seen a few times this season the likes of Dylan Stevens or the likes of a Toby Pink. They've really thrived now. They are a few years older and they've spent a little bit of time in the AFL system. So the likes of a Zach Banch or Geordie Payne, they're both names that we've been screaming for quite a few weeks now. There's not much more they can really do to mount a case in the VFL. They've both been in really good form, and I hope both of them do get an opportunity at some point, whether it's this weekend or in the games remaining, to actually prove themselves at AFL level. Geordie Payne in particular, it kind of feels like he's on the verge of a player that just won't get an opportunity to showcase what he's made of. His contract will be up at the end of the year, and we do have list spots that we have to cut. So he's one that may find himself unlucky, and I hope that we don't put him in that category without giving him the opportunity to actually showcase what he is made of. So I guess, again, it's just a wait and see. We'll find out all of the team news tomorrow night, and we'll definitely have a wrap up on that one before Saturday's game. In terms of Saturday's game, well, it's really hard to go in feeling confident that it's going to be anything close, I guess. Unfortunately, since the Carlton game, it kind of feels like we spent all of our tickets on proving ourselves on that stage, and now the last 3 games have just been competitive for some periods of time, and then we've just sort of fallen by the wayside. It is a little bit uninspiring, I feel, at the moment, and I do find it really difficult to find the positives when we're not really getting reward for effort, but we're also to blame for that. I think there's periods of time, particularly in that D's game, where we did dominate and we were in control of general play, but our inability to capitalise on the scoreboard, to enter the forward 50 cleanly, and to just take those opportunities, especially in front of goal when they were there, it's obviously really costly, and that kills your momentum. And then when a team gets the opportunity to go the other way, and they almost always do, we are sort of left in the lurch a little bit, and we don't seem to have the answers, and it allows teams to get the winning score that they need to put us away. So trips over to the SCG are never easy, especially with the Swans coming into some red hot form. We struggled against them at Marvel earlier this year, and that was a Swans side that were undermanned, and we couldn't get the job done. So I don't think that the game over the weekend at the SCG, with a side that now does have a lot of their best players back, and they've found some really great form back at home, I can't see this one being any closer than what the game was in round 4. I would like to be proven wrong. There's actually nothing more that I would like than to be proven wrong in this instance. But if our game against them at the SCG last year is anything to go by, then it could be a really dismal day for North and supporters around the country. But nevertheless, I will still be tuning in and hoping for the best. How are you guys feeling ahead of the game on Saturday? Leave all of your thoughts in the comments below. We can also continue the conversation over on socials, Kanga TV Show on Instagram, X, Facebook, and email. Just one more quick one before I head off. If you do follow Kanga TV over on socials, I just wanted to let you know that Instagram, there is a competition, a giveaway running at the moment. I've teamed up with Mitch from Footy Finds. He has the best vintage collection of apparel, and we're giving away a really cool North Melbourne vintage tee. It's just a little thank you from both of us for supporting us throughout season 2025, and always, you guys are what makes something like Kanga TV possible. You guys are what makes something like Footy Finds possible. So we just thought we'd team up and just a little something to say thank you. So I'll leave the link to that one down below. It is an Instagram only competition, so make sure you jump over there and follow all the steps to get yourself in the running to win that t-shirt. Anyway, that is all from me. I'll be back again before our game on Saturday afternoon to wrap up the team and to have a look exactly who does make their way back into this side ahead of our clash against the Swans. I look forward to seeing you all then. Go Roos.